Do not condemn, and you will not be condemned. Forgive, and you will be forgiven. Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, running over, will be put in your lap. For the measure you give will be the measure you get back. He also told them a parable. Can a blind person guide a blind person? Will not both fall into a pit? A disciple is not above the teacher, but everyone who is fully qualified will be like the teacher. Why do you see the speck in your neighbor's eye, but do not notice the log in your own eye? Or how can you say to your neighbor, "Friend, let me take the speck out of your eye," when you yourself do not see the log in your own eye? You hypocrite! First take the log out of your own eye, and then you will see clearly to take the speck out of your neighbor's eye. He also speaks of a tree and its fruit. No good tree bears bad fruit, nor does a bad tree bear good fruit. For each tree is known by its own fruit. Figs are not gathered from thorns, nor are grapes picked from a bramble bush. The good person out of the good treasure of the heart produces good, and the evil person out of evil treasure produces evil. For it is out of the abundance of the heart that the mouth speaks. Here ends the reading of words that give us insight on God. May He grant us wisdom and courage for interpretation.
My reading from our tradition is by Sophia Lyon-Fars, who was a Unitarian theologian and a shining light within religious education in our association. It's called It Matters What We Believe. It matters what we believe. Some beliefs are like a walled garden. They encourage exclusiveness and the feeling of being especially privileged. Other beliefs are expansive and lead the way into wider and deeper sympathies. Some beliefs are like shadows, clouding children's days with fears of unknown calamities. Other beliefs are like sunshine, blessing children with the warmth of happiness. Some beliefs are divisive, separating the saved from the unsaved, friends from enemies. Other beliefs are bonds in a world community where sincere differences beautify the pattern. Some beliefs are like blinders, shutting off the power to choose one's own direction. Other beliefs are like gateways, opening wide vistas for exploration. Some beliefs weaken a person's selfhood. They blight the growth of resourcefulness. Other beliefs encourage self-confidence and enrich the feeling of personal worth. Some beliefs are rigid, like the body of death, impotent in a changing world. Other beliefs are pliable, like a young sapling, ever growing with the upward thrust of life. May our beliefs be ever so, growing in love in our human hearts. Amen.
Well, friends, it is my great privilege and pleasure to introduce to you the Reverend Luna Broussard, who is a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, an ordained minister in that tradition. We have a long history of collaboration with the First Unitarian Universalist Church here in San Diego. Yes. And I'm so excited that we get to start this conversation series off like this. So, we're trying to think about a way that we could embody being peacemakers. And we thought, maybe one thing that we could do is invite people in so that we can learn about other traditions and we can try to find commonalities. We can learn more about each other's traditions. And why not? Why not?
I think it's a great idea. I think we ought to do it on every street corner.
Reverend Luna, welcome. We're so glad you're here.
Thank you.
I was hoping that instead of me kind of introducing you and just telling the congregation about you, that maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. I will try and be very brief because I'm kind of old now, so I have a very long life. I was born in Denmark, so you can stop wondering where my accent is from. I was born in Denmark. I grew up in what was the Lutheran church, but it didn't mean very much because, you see, it's like England. The Lutheran church is a state church, so you're automatically a member, basically. And that's a terrible thing to happen to a religion, by the way. It kind of kills it. When I was 18, I fell in love, as you do at 18, with an Iraqi veterinarian who was studying at the Royal Veterinary College. I married him. I moved to Baghdad, not understanding at all why my parents were worried about it. I was 18, and lived there for 6.5 years, during which there were about 5 coups, some of them successful, some not. My son, Talal al-Baghdadi, is a product of that marriage. We came to the States after the Baathists took over, and my first husband wanted to get a PhD, so I worked very hard putting him to school, and then guess what? He got a job in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and we got divorced. So I was a single mom for a while with my son. Then I met my second husband, whom I was married to for 32 years. He was Cajun, and so we were the Danish-Cajun connection, basically. I lost him about 3 years ago. I have served churches in 7 different states. The last one I served was in Birmingham, Alabama, from which I retired this spring. So it was very nice to hear freedom is coming, because that took me back there a little bit. So I'm now retired. I'm a rabid Unitarian Universalist.
How did you come to Unitarian Universalism?
I take words very seriously. Most Unitarian Universalists do.
Yes.
And so I could never say everything that was asked of me when I had to say a creed in various churches and so forth.
I understand. We have trouble with that around here, too.
Yeah. So, I never could say it and believe it, and I could not say it and not believe it. And so in Baton Rouge, a friend took me to the Unitarian Church, and I was very skeptical because, I'd gone to a lot of churches and got to love the people and know the people, and then I couldn't really join.
Yes.
Because they were asking me to say this thing I couldn't believe fully, and I wasn't going to say it if I didn't believe it. And so I started talking right away about everything I believed, and discovered I was one of the more conservative people there. And I felt at home. I knew I had arrived. I need the freedom. I need the openness. I mean, I also lived in Baghdad, Iraq, and so I got to know Islam a little bit. And after 13 years as a very active lay leader, I decided to enter the ministry. I sat and I met with our minister. He said, "I wonder what took you so long." And then I went home and said to my husband, "Honey, I decided what to do the rest of my life." And he said, "Oh, God." I said, "That comes close."
He didn't know he'd signed up for that.
No, he was wonderful, though. He went with me to seminary to meet with Lombard, University of Chicago. He was an amazing minister's spouse.
What led you to go into ministry after those 13 years there?
Because I loved the community.
Yeah.
How equal it was. At the time, part of the time, I was a graduate student, and there was no sense of I'm more than you or something like that. I loved the fact that here you had a community. You had atheists, Unitarian Universalist Christians, you have people who came from the Jewish tradition, you have people who were Sikh, we had a Sikh family, and we are all there in one room worshiping together. And we are one loving community. And I thought to myself, that's what the world needs in this ever more divided world.
Yeah.
is that kind of community. So I wanted to create such a community.
Yeah. Yeah, and so you became a leader and a minister in this tradition, and helped to create peace and understanding. And
I hoped that, in a sense, it was. I mean, I realize it's an ideal, and religion, partially exists so we can reach for an ideal. We never really reach, but we get better in trying for it.
Yes.
But I kept thinking, this is what the world needs.
Yeah.
How many people have been killed, murdered for different beliefs?
Yeah.
How many people say my way is the only way?
Yeah.
And that I find very, well, if we could be like that, there would be peace.
Yeah. Yeah. That really resonated with me. I think about Christianity on its best day. It tries to do the same thing, to strive toward this ideal of justice, of peace, and some days we do better than others.
Yes. Yes. Well, I mean, we do come out of the Christian tradition.
Yes.
And, we count as our forebears many people who sort of have our beliefs, But the Unitarianism was first mentioned as a denomination, official denomination, in, of all places, Transylvania. Where we had the only Unitarian king in history, King Sigismund, who immediately issued an edict of toleration saying everybody should feel free to believe and pray as they wish. As a result, there were 17 assassination attempts on his life, and he eventually died. This idea spread to Poland, to the Netherlands, to England, and it came to England, to United States. What you may not know is Joseph Priestley was a minister as well as a scientist, and he founded the first Unitarian church in Pennsylvania.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So that's the Unitarian side. The Universalist side is entirely created over here. Actually was begun by someone who used to be a Methodist minister. And the idea for Universalism was basically that we believe that God is love. If God is love, God will not condemn his or her children to everlasting hell.
Yeah.
Thus, we believe everybody will eventually be reconciled.
Yeah.
Because of that, they were called the no-hellers. There were a lot of debates with Baptists,
Yeah.
There's a story of one day they had a sign outside saying, this sermon will be, there's no hell, and across the street at the Baptist church, it said, the hell there ain't.
I'm thinking, probably 5 years ago or so, Rob Bell made, this evangelical leader made big news saying that there's no hell, and I said, or that there's universal salvation or something. I thought people have believed this for a long time.
Yes, we have.
Yeah.
We have indeed.
Yes.
We have indeed, and I think it makes absolute sense. I mean, whatever you think God is, or isn't.
Yes.
However you may be. Surely something much bigger than us.
Yeah.
And punishment, revenge, hatred, all that stuff, that's smaller.
Yes. Agree 100%.
There's so many people
Yeah.
who make God kind of like, what is it? A colleague of mine once said, you created God in your own image when God hates all the same people you do.
Yes. That sounds about right. Well, could you tell us a little bit more about Unitarian Universalism? It's two traditions merged together?
We merged together in 1961 after about 100 years of dating.
That's a long courtship.
That's very long courtship. Yeah, so we joined together, so now we're Unitarian Universalists, which means we have this really long name, so...
Yes.
So, we sometimes sounds like, a alphabet or something, because we say we are you-use.
You-use, yes.
We are you-use, because it's simpler than we are Unitarian Universalist.
Yes, I understand, because we are the people of the parentheses. We are the Christian church, in parentheses, disciples of Christ. Names don't get much more confusing than that.
That's right. Yeah. Unitarian Universalism developed in the States toward more and more religious freedom. Obviously, we've always believed that we are here to make the world better, and so, you go down the list of abolitionists, you go down the list of civil rights leaders, and, all that stuff. We're always the ones who are out there holding up the banner and so forth, and marching. And
That's what we like about you all.
yeah, I guess.
Yes.
Yeah, there was once a funny joke that Gerson Keeler told about us. He said that, the rapture had happened, so he called the Baptists, they were still there. He called the Pope was still there. Finally, he called the Unitarian Universalist Association, and nobody was there. The Unitarian Universalists had been raptured and left behind a whole bunch of placards on the sidewalk. We have, of course, people who grew up Unitarian Universalist,
Sure.
but we also have people who come to us of choice because often they have been wounded by other denominations, or being asked to believe things or be what they are not.
Yes, yes.
And I know that that's similar. You welcome everybody as well, and we have made a principle out of that.
Yes.
That is so important.
Yes, absolutely. Yes, I know both of our different traditions get a lot of refugees from people who have felt
Yes.
like they had to flee.
The problem with people coming wounded is they carry baggage, and so when you have baggage, some of them don't want you to do anything else, anything that they did in the church or synagogue they left. And that can make it rather difficult,
Sure, yes.
Which is why there's all those jokes, Unitarian Universalists pray to whom you may concern, and stuff like that. Unitarian Universalists are the most Protestant of all Protestant denominations, which makes, being a minister in a UU congregation rather challenging.
Sure, yes.
We are covenantal faith. That means we have a sacred agreement about how we're going to be with each other in the world, which is exemplified in our 7 principles. And we draw from all sources. We believe there's some truth and beauty to be found in all religions and in science and so forth, and in, of course, nature.
Yes.
Nature's God has always been part of Unitarianism in the United States. It is a challenge. We don't have a lexicon like you have here probably, where you are given whatever scripture, for whatever day, or do you?
Right, the Revised Common Lectionary.
Yes. We don't have that, which means this poor Unitarian Universalist minister has to decide what to do on a given Sunday.
That sounds like a lot of work.
It is a lot of work.
Yeah.
It is a lot of work. And it's a big challenge.
Yeah. A lot of work to be in community together and to plan worship that speaks to all of these different traditions.
Well, you're hoping you hit them once in a while,
Yes, not every Sunday.
Okay, and,
Yes.
and the way I looked at it was because when I first started out as minister, there was a lot of sort of militant humanists as well as other people in my congregation, the first one I served, and I figured as long as I got complaints from the humanists that I was mentioning God too much, and complaints from the theist that I wasn't mentioning God enough, I was doing okay.
You judged your success by the complaints you got. I like that.
Of course.
I like that.
Well, you see, if I only heard from one side, I thought I might be going too far in one direction. It's nice when you have more than one Unitarian Universalist church in town because you can develop different flavors.
Sure.
But most everywhere I've served, we were the only one in town.
Yeah.
So that requires more stretching.
Yeah. Can you tell us more about some of the basic beliefs of Unitarian Universalism? I know you mentioned 7 principles.
Yes, well, I actually have the 7 principles, and I brought you some copies. It might actually be easier to just read them, frankly.
Are there?
They were agreed upon, by the way, democratically, naturally.
Yes, that's one of the principles.
Yes, that's
Yeah.
absolutely it. Our first principle is the inherent worth and dignity of every person. If you live by that, you can't hurt another person. The second one is justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. Third principle, acceptance of one another, encouragement to spiritual growth in our congregation. The fourth principle, a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. I've used that a lot whenever someone get a little too dogmatic, Like, when I mentioned I had a few militant humanists, and,
Yes.
They would say, these people are turning Christian. I said, wait a minute here. It says a free and responsible search for truth and meaning. What does free mean? It doesn't mean you can say, oh, for heaven's sake, don't turn whatever,
Right, yeah.
The fifth principle is the right of conscience, the use of the democratic process within our congregations and in society at large. That occasionally makes it very hard to get things done. The sixth principle is the goal of world community with peace, liberty, and justice for all. And the seventh principle is respect for the interdependent web of all existence, of which we are a part. That's what we could agree on, folks. I cannot speak for another Unitarian Universalist.
Yes.
You have to ask them.
Yes. We have a joke around here. We say where there are 2 disciples gathered in one room, there are 3 different opinions.
Yes.
So we can relate to that to some degree.
It's
Yes.
very true.
Yes.
It's very true. But it does confuse some people.
Yeah.
Many you use kind of fear dinner table conversations. So what exactly do you believe?
Yes.
Well, and most people don't say we are covenantal church, not a creedal church. Instead, they kind of like, well, some of us believe in God and some of us don't. And then they say, well, you believe in Jesus, don't you? And of course, the answer is the same. Some of us do and some of us don't.
Yes. Yeah.
And then, usually people get very frustrated and say, so what on earth do you believe in? And that can be hard to understand, I think. It takes a willingness to be open.
Yeah.
To be a Unitarian Universalist. And it actually is a hard faith. It really is.
Because you have to discern for yourself what you you have to discern for yourself what it is you believe, and
right.
you have to struggle with that.
Yes. What you believe, and so we thought the whole idea of covenant is that it's a little bit like a holy conversation in the sense that you agree how to be with one another and how to be in the world.
Yes.
And that we can figure out.
Yes.
Now, if you start talking about is there reincarnation or not, oh, please. Is there a heaven? Oh, please, no. No agreement.
Yes.
No agreement.
Yes. Yeah.
Personally, I'm a bit of a mystic, which is also hard to be in my faith. But I think that death is a great mystery. And I think we have to trust it just as we trust life.
Yeah.
I don't know what happens once we die.
Yeah.
I trust it's not bad. I've seen so many people, die, and most times death has come as a friend. Of course, not always. There's been tragedies, but it's a mystery. And it's hard. Some people need more direction than that.
Yeah.
They want to know They want more of a cookbook, I guess. So, they want to know, this is what I do, and if I do it right, then all will be well.
Right. It's
I
easier.
believe all will be well.
Yeah.
I do. Now, you might think, oh, you don't believe in evil. No, I do believe in evil. I just happen to believe that whatever hell exists is what we humans are so good at creating. Way too good at creating, frankly.
Yeah.
And in a sense, that's heaven too.
Yeah.
So we have this immense possibility within our souls. But yes, of course, there's evil. No, I don't believe in the devil and so forth,
Yeah.
There once was a play I saw at one of our General Assembly. It was tongue-in-cheek completely. Anyhow, St. Peter got so tired of all the Unitarian Universalists coming up there and arguing that he made a deal with the devil and said, would you please take him? And so Unitarian Universalists were being, entering hell. Well, that caused deep problems because, you see, first, they really organized the devils to ask for better working conditions. And then they said, the temperature here, the environment is just terrible. We're going to have to do something about it. And so that play, tongue-in-cheek, ended as Unitarian Universalists had reformed hell, and now they were marching on heaven.
Reverend Luna, what's your favorite thing about your faith tradition?
The love and the freedom. And when I say love, I don't mean, American English, or English in general, is a funny language.
Yeah.
Love means just about anything. You can love ice cream, right?
Sure.
And I mean a universal love, a deep belief in goodness. I treasure that.
Yeah. Reverend Luna, thank you for being here with us today. We so appreciate you sharing your story and sharing about your faith tradition. She has been kind enough to offer to, join me in the narthex so that you can say hi to her and that we're glad that she was here today. If you would like to speak with her one-on-one about Unitarian Universalism, she's going to join us for coffee chat, and you can have a conversation with her. Thank you for being here.
You're welcome.